The new Destiny 2 dungeon, Warlord's Ruin, just released and it's pretty awesome. It takes place in an abandoned castle now overrun by Scorn and Taken, haunted by the corrupted spirit of an Ahamkara. In this video, I'll be walking you through the mechanics of each of the 3 bosses, and I'll be including how to solve the prison puzzle and where to find the secret chests. If you've already completed the dungeon and are looking for a guide on the quest that drops from the final boss, I'll have a video walking you through that very soon. When it's live, it'll be in the description and outro of this video. To gain access to the dungeon, visit Ikora for the In the Shadow of the Mountain quest, and then you can launch the dungeon from the right side of the EDZ map. Before we get to the first encounter, I have to talk about the secret chests in this dungeon. They work a little differently this time around, and instead of there just being 2, there's a lot more. However, only 2 of them are actually real. The rest are trapped chest or mimic chest, which when opened, will literally bring you to your knees and surround you with screams. You'll know if it's not a real chest if you can see a blue glow around it. You can sometimes see the blue glow from far away, but you'll always be able to see the effect of it if you stand right next to the chest and just watch it for a few seconds. Out of all of the locations that I'm going to show, it's going to be completely random for you which ones are fake and which ones are real, so you'll have to visit each location that I'm showing in this video and check for yourself every time you run the dungeon. The first potentially real secret chest is located right in the beginning of the dungeon before you cross the wooden bridge. Make sure to check if it has a blue glow on it, and if it does, just ignore it.
Get to the bottom of this.
Encounter 1 is Rathil, first Broken Knight of Fikrul. This encounter introduces 2 mechanics, the Taken Eyes and the Hex mechanic. When you begin the encounter, a bunch of ads will spawn and you can clear them like normal. Shortly after, Rathil will teleport each player into a cage that slowly ascends until it reaches the top, impaling you with spears. To prevent this, look around outside of your cage and find and destroy 3 Blighted Eyes. This will unlock and open the door, allowing you to escape. You can also assist your teammates at opening their cage by shooting their Blighted Eyes at any point. When Rathil teleports you, he'll also spawn one of his hexes, which is this Scorn Chieftain totem-looking thing. As soon as the first hex spawns, a timer for the imminent wish buff also starts counting down. This is where you need to stand in the circle of the hex and stay there until the hex turns blue and has this small explosion effect. There's also a noise accompanied with the explosion to let you know it's complete. Around the time that the imminent wish buff reaches 15 seconds, Rathil will also spawn another hex. Capturing and using these hexes against Rathil will give you about 18 seconds to damage him before the whole cycle repeats. Capturing a hex takes about 7 seconds, and if you fail to do it before the imminent wish buff runs out, you're going to lose about 3 to 4 seconds off your DPS phase. Kill the ads, break free of the cages, capture the hexes, and then DPS, and that is Encounter 1 complete. After defeating Rathil, you'll be teleported into a prison, with each player contained to a different cell. On the walls there are 6 gears that when shot begin rotating. If you shoot them again, they'll stop, and shooting them a 3rd time will change the direction they rotate. One player will be stuck in a cell with a skeleton and a tablet featuring tally marks to their left. The number of tally marks here indicates how many of the 6 total gears need to be spinning clockwise or to the right. Another player will be stuck in a cell with a skeleton and the tally marks on the ground. This number indicates how many of the gears need to be turning counterclockwise or to the left. Both sets of tally marks will always add up to 6, letting you figure out how many gears need to be spinning and in what direction. It doesn't matter which ones you shoot or in what order they are shot, as long as you have the correct amount spinning clockwise and the correct amount spinning counterclockwise. In my run, the number of gears we needed to turn clockwise was 4, as you can see from the tally marks on this tablet. So logically, the remaining 2 gears should be spinning the opposite way. You can see at least 2 gears from each cell, so here's where they are all located. A bit further in the dungeon, you'll find 2 more potential secret chests, one behind these iron bars, which I'll show you in a second, and the other is right around the corner from it. Starting from the door that says it requires Dispel level 2, head down the stairs and take a right, passing through some rubble to get to the chest behind the bars. Eventually you'll reach a bridge section with a staircase leading up to an abomination mini-boss. Behind him in the room is another potential secret chest spawn. The second boss fight is against the Locus of Wailing Grief. To begin, make sure you have at least one teammate on the left and one on the right side of this space. Then shoot the Blight and spawn in the boss. Shortly after he appears, so will a handful of taken enemies, including one taken Minotaur per side. Take them out and then look up to destroy all of the blighted eyes floating above you. This will cause text to pop up saying that the Scorn rise, letting you know that the Broken Knight mini-bosses are about to spawn in. These Broken Knights, one per side, will spawn in hexes both by summoning them and dropping them when they die. As soon as the first knight is killed, this will activate a 30-second imminent wish timer, meaning you have 30 seconds to capture the hexes like in the first encounter. About 3 seconds after the imminent wish buff appears, the biting cold debuff will also appear, counting up from 0 stacks to a maximum of 10 stacks, at which you freeze to death. To prevent this, find the flags located in the back middle and back corners of the space to seek shelter from the storm. This will remove your stacks of biting cold very quickly, allowing you to go back out and capture those hexes. Remember, it does take about 7 seconds to capture them, so make sure you have enough time before Imminent Wish runs out. Upon capturing the final hex, fireballs will spawn in that you can pick up and use to ignite the 4 pillars around the boss. The amount of fireballs that spawn in is equal to the amount of hexes that you captured before time ran out. So if you captured all 4 of them, you can start damage phase immediately by igniting all 4 pillars. Each pillar will have its own circle around it, and walking into that circle grants you Naeem's Wish Empowerment, which is the buff you need to damage the boss. It lasts 15 seconds per pillar, and with 4 pillars you'll have a max damage phase of 60 seconds. Make sure if you're running this with teammates to all stand together at the same pillar. If you stand at separate ones, it's going to use up the buffs and cut your damage phase short. Once you can no longer damage the boss, you can simply repeat the cycle until you kill him. Moving on, you'll eventually reach a room with a bunch of chests, one of which has the potential to be the real one. It also might not be any of them, so just keep that in mind. When you reach the outside of this cave with a tower in the distance to your right, traverse the cliffside, passing by 2 tunnels, one which leads to the 3rd boss and the other which leads to a door that requires Dispel level 1. At the top you'll find another potential secret chest. The third and final boss of this dungeon is Hefnd's Vengeance, Blighted Chimera. To start, destroy the blight on the ground to spawn the boss, and begin the encounter by clearing taken enemies. Eventually, when the wizards spawn in, 6 blighted eyes will spawn around the boss, and all of them must be destroyed to spawn in the Scorn and those 2 Broken Knight mini-bosses. Once again, the first knight to die will activate the Imminent Wish buff for 30 seconds, and just like the previous encounters, your goal is to capture the hexes that they summon in. Shortly after killing a knight, you'll gain the Hex of Vengeful Corruption debuff, which starts counting down from 15 seconds. You'll also notice a bunch of immune Hex Drinker Scorn enemies have spawned in. To avoid dying from the debuff timer hitting 0, you can transfer your debuff to the immune Scorn guys by meleeing them. I would recommend waiting until the timer gets a little bit lower, and maybe until you've captured those hexes first, if you can, because if the immune Scorn guys melee you back, they'll actually transfer that debuff back to you. So make sure you've gotten rid of it before the Vengeful Corruption timer hits 0. When it does, the immune Scorn Hex Drinkers will die, and then when the Imminent Wish buff hits 0, the damage phase will begin. Each hex that you capture adds an additional 3 seconds to your damage phase, but it's currently unclear how to force the Broken Knights to summon an additional hex. Sometimes it seems like they decide to, and other times they don't. I'm not sure if I'm missing something here or if it's just inconsistent, but if there's something I missed, let me know in the comments and I'll add it to the description. These damage phases will be short regardless of whether or not you get all 4 hexes to spawn or not, so just focus on trying to do enough damage to meet that light yellow bar on the boss's health. I should also mention that throughout each phase here, there will be blights spawning around the area, and I would recommend taking them out so you aren't constantly being damaged by them. Once damage phase ends, move up to the next platform and repeat everything you just did. After going through a total of 3 short damage phases, You'll get an additional extra damage phase that takes place atop these broken sections of the castle. After it ends, if you haven't killed the boss yet, you'll be teleported back to the start to repeat the cycle all over again. Once you defeat the boss, you'll get the final chest, which has a chance to drop the Buried Bloodline Exotic Sidearm. Defeating the boss also updates your quest, which as I mentioned earlier, I will cover in full in the next video. If you enjoyed, please drop a like on the video. It can actually make all the difference in how well the video performs, and I would really appreciate it. And subscribe if you enjoy Destiny 2 guides, because I'll be covering more stuff throughout the season. Thanks for watching.